Hi everyone, my name is Christian Ridge, and today I'm going to be sharing my research about the hydrological impacts of climate change upon the Hawaiian natural, urban, and cultural landscape. First, here's a few things about me. Currently, I am a geography major here at IBC, and now I am officially transferring to UCLA. Go Bruins! I also have growing interests within the fields of urban and transportation geography. One last thing about me is that I have always been enthralled with the Pacifica region due to my Hawaiian heritage. So, now that that's out of the way, let's first discuss my research thesis. Directly associated with the global climate crisis, Hawaii is extremely exposed to the modification of current climatic trends and exhibits a risk of hydrological hazard unmatched by its continental counterparts, deteriorating the island's singular ecosystem, inundating its urban infrastructure, and jeopardizing the livelihoods and traditional values of its residents. Let's now discuss the climatic overview of the islands in order for us to understand the scope of climate change's impacts. So, the Hawaiian Islands are largely dominated by a tropical climate with mild humidity due to its location in the tropics and location extremely isolated away from any sort of large landmass. Persistent northeast trade winds are the primary fuel of the region's hydrological cycle and promote orographic lift and the creation of windward and leeward portions of the island. It's also important to note that the ITCZ and ENSO relations also play a huge role at determining local weather due to its location in the tropics. All right, let's first discuss the impacts upon marine resources. Within my research, I have found that sea level rise, sea surface temperatures, and the impacts upon reef communities are the largest and most preeminent of impacts that the state faces. Sea level rise weakens the ecological resilience of ecosystem and damages habitats such as wetlands and estuaries. Sea surface temperatures, which also play a critical role within sea level rise, also work to impact marine resources by modulating weather patterns in association with the atmosphere, creating volatile conditions and increasingly extreme weather events. Lastly, the impacts upon reef communities, such as ocean acidification and coral bleaching, are largely driven by increased heating of the atmosphere and increased CO2 levels, which have extreme implications upon the state of Hawaii. Now let's discuss the impacts upon fresh water. Because of rising temperatures and the increasingly common instance of drought, Hawaii is suffering from a decrease in water supply due to the varied precipitation patterns, which affects the ecological health and composition of its ecosystems. Saltwater intrusion, by means of overwashing or the rising of the ground table, is another issue that affects Hawaiian fresh water by disrupting the gravitational movement of water and thus disrupting the general hydrological cycle of the region. Next, we must understand that all the infrastructure within Hawaii is located within the coastal zone, and this makes it extremely vulnerable to permanent and episodic inundation. It is estimated that 550 Hawaiian cultural sites, 38 miles of major roads, and more than 6,500 structures and 25,000 acres of land located near the shoreline are expected to be impacted by climate change, displacing roughly 20,000 residents. Shoreline hardening is another impact that the state of Hawaii faces and is largely induced by the private building of backshore structures in order to limit the amount of erosion that occurs on its beaches. But what actually ends up happening is that this aggregates and intensifies erosion along other beaches within the state. So major impacts there. Hawaii's economic and cultural landscape is also impacted by climate change due to its heavy reliance upon the coastal zone. Its largest industry, tourism, hospitality, agricultural production, and the military, are highly concentrated within the coastal zone, which makes it extremely vulnerable to marine hazards. It is also important to discuss Native Hawaiians, who often derive their self-identity from their innate connection to the islands and the health of its ecosystems. Climate change erodes traditional culture and knowledge by placing pressure upon native communities and by quite literally destroying its infrastructure along the coastline, which impacts native fish ponds, salt cultivation, and the farming of taro. It is also important to understand that Hawaii homelands are also impacted by climate change due to their position all the way from the mountains to the ocean, which is referred to as the Makua to the Makai in Hawaiian, which displaces native populations and the lives that they've learned to lead for generations. Now that we understand the hydrological impacts faced by the state of Hawaii, let's get into my proposed solution. In order to preserve both the state of Hawaii's environment and localized cultural practices, I suggest creating an outreach program that connects traditional knowledge and geographic research in order to educate and understand Hawaiian land stewardship within the greater context of the global climate crisis. Throughout my research, I have realized that there is a lack of geographic perspective about the subject, which is a shame given the discipline's interdisciplinary nature. Within this program, I like to stress the importance of combining both systems of thought to synthesize new information regarding the socioeconomic and personal struggles faced by Native Hawaiians. Applying a geographic lens upon the state of Hawaii may be the only way for us to fully understand climate change's multifaceted threats, which is why I propose such a solution. All right, I hope you enjoyed my quick little presentation about my research, and thank you for your time.